I knew something in my marriage had snapped the moment my wife jerked away to touch like I was poison. It was past midnight, the hallway light barely spilling into our bedroom, when I leaned over to kiss Madison goodnight, something I had done 1,000 times before. But this time, she whipped her shoulder away and hissed, "Don't touch me. I have self-respect." For a second, I honestly thought I misheard her. Self-respect? From a goodnight kiss? I lay there frozen, staring at the woman I'd spent 7 years loving, protecting, providing for. And she looked at me like I was some inconvenience she wanted to file a complaint about. That night, something inside me shifted. The humiliation burned deep, but the clarity burned deeper. So the next morning, when she came to me with her usual demands, I finally said the words she never expected. "Don't ask me, I have self-respect." And that's when she completely lost her mind. People think marriages collapse in explosive moments, shouting matches, broken plates on kitchen floors. But mine, it didn't start with fireworks. It started with the kind of tiny cracks you can't see until they've already fought the foundation. 7 years ago, Madison was the warmest woman I knew. She laughed with her whole face, wrapped her arms around me every time I came through the door, and told the one I was her favorite person on earth. I married her because she made the world feel soft, like I didn't have constantly brace for impact. But somewhere around year 6, things began shifting. Not enough for me to panic, just enough for me to notice. It began with comments. Little Barb's delivered with a smile. "You know, Ethan, most husbands actually plan date nights." Or, "Do you really think that shirt still fits you?" Then she started staying out later. "Girls' nights," she said. "I need time for myself." I believed her. I wanted to believe her. The real turning point was Brittany. Brittany swept into our lives like a walking red flag wrapped in designer clothes. She was freshly divorced again and wore the word empowered like jewelry. Everything out of her mouth sounded like a TED talk someone delivered while drunk. "Don't let any man tell you who you are. You deserve luxury energy, babe. Men only treat you as well as you demand." Harmless at first, annoying later, dangerous eventually. Madison started parroting her lines like gospel. One night, we were eating takeout on the couch, and she said, "You know, Brittany thinks I settle too much." I glanced up. "Settle how?" "For comfort, stability, routine," she said, looking directly at me like I was the embodiment of those things she now resented. I brushed it off. Every marriage has phases. People get stressed, overworked, tired. I figured I just needed to step up more, be more attentive, more understanding. But it wasn't stress. It wasn't work. It wasn't just a phase. The warmth let first, the goodnight hugs, the spontaneous kisses, the lazy Sunday mornings. Then the laughter faded. Then the conversations. Then finally the intimacy. Eventually Madison couldn't even look at me without some invisible wall slamming down between us. The worst part, she didn't explain. She didn't talk. She didn't even argue. She just retreated, bit by day. Like someone slowly turning down a dimmer switch. And I kept reaching for her, hoping she'd reach back. But she didn't. Not once. I asked if something was wrong. She told me I was imagining things. I asked if I had done something. She told me to stop being dramatic. I asked if she still loved me. She stared at me like I'd inconvenienced her. I didn't know it then, but the distance she created would become a weapon. One she'd eventually use against me. Because by the time she whispered, "Don't touch me, I have self-respect," the woman I married was already gone. And I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. The night it happened didn't feel special at all. Just another quiet in a house that didn't feel like home anymore. Madison was already in bed, back turned, scrolling on her phone under the dim glow of her bedside lamp. I slipped in next to her, the mattress dipping slightly, and for a moment I pretended things were normal. I pretended she'd roll toward me like she used to. I pretended I wasn't sharing a bed with a stranger. I set my phone down, leaned over, and gently reached for her shoulder. Just a simple goodnight kiss, something we'd done effortlessly for years. But she jolted violently like my touch burned her. "Don't," she snapped, voice sharp as broken glass. I froze mid-motion. "Madison, it's just me." She sat up in one swift, angry movement. "Don't touch me, Ethan. I have self-respect." Self-respect. The word slammed into me so hard it knocked the breath my lungs. "For a kissperd. For anything." She shot back. "You think just because we're married, I'm available whenever you want. I'm not some emotional vending machine," decked at her, stunned. "Madison, I wasn't." "Oh, save it," she said, crossing her arms. "I'm tired. I want space. And honestly, I don't feel respected by you." "What?" I breathed, Where is this even coming from? She rolled her eyes and scoffed. Ethan, you don't appreciate me. You don't put effort into us. You do the bare minimum and expect me to be grateful. That stung more than I wanted to admit. The bare minimum, I said quietly. I work 60-hour weeks to keep us on. Madison, I pay every bill, every expense, She cut me off, voice dripping contempt. Money isn't love. No, I said. But it's part of building a life together. She turned away dismissively. I'm done explaining myself. Sleep somewhere else. And just like that, she tipped me out of my own bed. I stood there for a full 10 seconds, waiting for her to say she didn't mean it, that this was just a heat moment, that she was tired, stressed, frustrated. But she stayed facing the wall. Silent. Cold, unmoved. Something inside me cracked clean in half. I took my pillow, walked out, and shut the door behind me. The hallway felt colder than usual, the air heavy and stale. Lying in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, her words kept replaying like an insult carved into stone. Don't touch me. I have self-respect. Self-respect. As if being my wife was an act of humiliation. As if I wasn't the one who held this marriage together with both hands, while she slowly loosened her grip. And somewhere between replaying her words and the quiet ache in my chest, a different kind of clarity started forming. If she wanted distance so badly. Fine. But she was going to learn exactly what distance felt like. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, I wouldn't be the only one hurting. Tomorrow, I would answer her cruelty in the only language she seemed to understand. Self-respect of my own. When morning came, the house felt hollow. Not quiet hollow. Like someone had scooped the warmth out of it and left nothing but the shell. Madison was already in the kitchen, hair tied up, wearing her usual irritated expression, scrolling through her phone like she was reading a list of reasons to be annoyed with me. She didn't look up when I walked in. Of course she didn't. Pick up my package from the post office today, she said flatly, still staring at her phone. No good morning. No acknowledgement of last night. Just an order. I poured myself coffee. Work. You can grab it. Her head snapped up. Excuse me. I took a slow sip, keeping my tone even. You heard me. She blinfused, maybe even offended. Well, then transfer $300 to my account. I'm meeting Brittany later. I set the mug down, and with the same calm she used when telling me she had self-respect. Don't ask me. I have self-respect. Her jaw literally fell open. Are you mocking me? She demanded. No, I said. Just following your example. You want space, you got it. You want boundaries. Same here. You want self-respect. Great, I've got some too. Her eyebrows showed, flickering behind her eyes. Oh, so you're being petty. No, I said simply. I'm done being treated like a doormat, she scoffed. A doormat? Ethan, you're being dramatic. Am I? Last night you recoiled from me like I was diseased, told me not to touch you, and kicked me out of our bed. That's not dramatic to you. She folded her arms and needed space. And now, I said, so do I. Her voice went up an octave. Wow. So now you're punishing me. I'm protecting myself. Madison stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her, role I'd played for years. The quiet, patient, accommodating husband had suddenly walked off stage and left a stranger in his place. She hate her unbelievable, she hissed. You're acting immature. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I've just learned from the best. That one hit. Her face flushed red, anger, shock, maybe even guilt, but she swallowed a gun with a scowl. I'm going upstairs, she said sharply. Don't follow me. I almost laughed, like I had any intention of following her anywhere. She stormed off, her footsteps echoing through the hallway, and for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in our home for a long time: control. Didn't a spine. She wanted a husband who accepted humiliation in silence. But the man making coffee that morning, he wasn't that husband anymore. And Madison, she wasn't ready for my self-respect, not even close. If Madison hated my sudden backbone, Brittany absolutely despised it. It didn't even take half a day before she inserted herself into our marriage like she had a season pass. I'd just gotten home from work, losing my tie, when I heard her voice drifting from the living room. Schmarp, the kind of tone people use when they're performing outrage for an audience. Girl, you don't have to tolerate disrespect, Brittany said, legs crossed on my couch like she owned the place. If Ethan doesn't want to pull his weight, then he doesn't deserve you. Madison nodded vigorously, like she'd been waiting for permission. I stepped into the room. Interesting, I said. Did the part where she kicked me out of my own bed make it into your analysis, Brittany, or did Madison leave that chapter out? Brittany shot me Elitha with contempt. Oh, please. Women are allowed to have boundaries. And husbands aren't. I can't, it's not what I said. No, I replied, but it's exactly what you meant. Madison stood up, arms folded. Stop attacking her, Ethan. I'm not, I said. I'm just pointing out she doesn't live here, pay bills here, or have any say in this marriage. Brittany laughed a cold, derisive sound. Maybe if you actually appreciated your wife, she wouldn't need support from her friends. I stepped closer. Support. Or validation for treating her husband like trash. That one landed. Madison went pale, Brittany went red. But the real bomb dropped an hour later. My phone rang. Caroline, Madison's mother, the woman who had never approved of me, not even on a wedding day. I answered anyway. Hello, Caroline. Her voice came through sharp as a blade. Ethan, what did you do to my daughter? What did I do? She told me you raised her voice, refused to help her, and you're being emotionally distant. I closed my eyes, letting out a slow breath. Caroline, you're done not to touch her because she has self-respect. Then she kicked me out of our bedroom. This isn't on me, Caroline scoffed. Well, maybe if you made her feel valued, she wouldn't act that way. There it was, the script, the same one Madison had started reading from the second Brittany showed up. Caroline, I said calmly, what I'm not going to do is defend myself and weigh conference call between you, Madison, and Brittany. My marriage is between me and my wife. You need to fix this, she snapped. Then tell your daughter to taunt me, not her fan club. I hung up. Maybe that was harsh. But I was done playing the villain in a story someone else was writing. That night, Madison sulked around the house, alternating between silence and exaggerated sighs, as if her disappointment alone could pull me back into line. But all her tactics did was make one thing painfully clear. This wasn't just a rough patch. This was a team. Her, Brittany, and her mother standing shoulder to shoulder against me, and standing alone suddenly felt safer than standing with them. Silence in a marriage can be peaceful. Ours wasn't. Ours was the kind of silence that creaks, like the house is warning you right before the roof collapses. After the calls, the arguing, the sideways glances, I made a choice. I stopped chasing. I stopped explaining. I stopped apologizing for things I didn't do. I drew. And Madison absolutely unraveled. It started that evening. I was sitting at the kitchen table, reviewing some work emails when her footsteps echoed down the stairs, emotional, unsteady. She appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes red like she'd been crying but didn't want me to notice. Are we really doing this? She demanded. I looked up calmly. Doing what? This. She gestured wildly between us. You ignoring me. You shutting down, you act like the victim. I'm not acting like anything, I said. I'm giving you the space you said you needed. That's not what I meant, you know it. No, I said slowly, I genuinely don't. She clenched her jaw. Ethan, can you please just talk to me? Funny how she wanted to talk now that she was the one being ignored. I closed my laptop. I've tried. For months. You didn't want to hear me. Her voice cracked. That's not fair. Neither was the way you treated me. She stared at me, stunned, like she didn't expect me to finally call out the obvious. But the real shift happened over the next few days. When I didn't respond to every sigh. When I didn't tiptoe around her mood swings. When I didn't bend just to keep the peace. Madison panicked. The calls started first, then the texts, then the guilt trips. Why are you being cold? Why are you distant? Why won't you fix this with me? I feel like you don't care anymore. And the irony hit me hard. She couldn't handle a fraction of the distance she'd forced on me for months. Then Brittany decided to escalate things. One afternoon I came home and the moment I shut the door, their whispers slammed into silence. They were sitting on the couch side by side, like some sort of tribunal. Brittany spoke first. You can't treat Madison like this. She's hurting. I dropped my keys on the table. Hurting. I looked at Madison. No, you care how someone feels. Madison swallowed hard, eyes darting away. Brittany stood, arms crossed. Ethan, you need to show up. Mentally. Physically. I stared at her. Respectfully. You don't get to dictate anything about my marriage. You're being cruel, she shot back. No, I said. Cruel was watching my wife turn cold and distant for months while I begged her to let me in. Madison's lip trembled slightly. For a moment, just a moment, I saw guilt flicker in her eyes. But Brittany rooted instantly. Don't let him twist this. He's manipulating you. I laughed. A tired, bitter laugh. Manipulation. If only Madison saw how loud that projection was. I picked up my jacket. Madison stood quickly. Where are you going? Oat, I said. Where there's air. She took a shaky step toward me. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I hadn't seen in months of fear. No, I said quietly. I think you should stay with your support team. I walked out the front door as her breath hitched behind me. And that was the moment I realized. She wasn't just losing control of the marriage, she was losing control of me. There's a moment every married man secretly fears, a moment you realize and sleeping beside you isn't your partner anymore, but a storm that keeps getting stronger no matter how much you brace yourself. For me, that moment hit a week after the self-respect incident. Madison and I were barely speaking. I'd moved into the guest room full time. She oscillated between cold, frantic attempts to pull me into arguments I wanted no part of. The tension became a living thing in that house, thick, heavy, wavy. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I'd just gotten home, dropped my bag by the door, when Madison marched into the foyer like she'd been rehearsing this scene all day. We need to talk, she said, arms crossed so tightly her knuckles whitened. I didn't want to, but I nodded. She took a breath like she was about to deliver a keynote speech. I feel like you're abandoning this marriage. Madison, I said. For months, you've treated me like I was invisible. You pushed me away, shut me out, and told me not to touch you. That was one night, she snapped. No, I said quietly. It was the moment everything became clear. She stepped toward me. You can't just stop trying. I laughed under my breath. Stop trying. Madison, I tried long before you noticed anything was wrong. She swallowed, eyes narrowing. So you're giving up. I'm choosing myself for once, I said. Her voice softened dangerously so. Ethan, don't say that. I have to, whispered. She flinched like the words physically hit her. Then came the accusation. You just want to leave so you can be with someone else, don't you? I stared at her, stunned. Where the hell did that come from? She scoffed. Brittany thinks. I held up my hand. There's your problem. Brittany thinks, and you treat her thoughts like commandants. Madison looked wounded. She's helping me. No, I corrected. She's shaping you, and you let her. She wiped her eyes angrily. If you're done, say it. I hesitated for a heartbeat, just long enough to recognize the green in my chest, but it didn't stop me. I'm done. The room went silent. Her lips parted. You don't mean that? I do. She stared at me as if the walls around her had collapsed. You can't just walk away from 7 years. You walked away first, I said. I'm just catching up. She let out a shaky breath. So what? You're filing for divorce. Yes. Her eyes filled instantly, but not with tenderness, with rage. Pure shocked rage. You're unbelievable, she spat. You're throwing away everything because your ego got hurt. I looked at her one last time, the woman I loved, the woman who changed. The woman who wouldn't stop listening to everyone except her husband. My ego didn't break this marriage, I said quietly. Your disrespect did. I picked up my keys. Her voice reached me as I opened the door. Where are you going? To find an attorney. And I walked out, leaving behind the echo of a life that was already over. The apartment I rented wasn't anything special, just a clean one-bedroom on the 4th floor, decent lighting, a balcony big enough for a single chair. But to me, it felt like oxygen. The first night I slept there alone, I didn't miss Madison. I missed the version of her that had died months ago. 2 days after I moved in, I came home from work to pounding, violent, desperate pounding on my door. I knew who it was before I even looked. I checked the peephole. Madison, hair messy, eyes swollen. Breathing frantic, I didn't open the door. Ethan, she shouted. Open the door right now. I leaned against the wall, silent. She kept knocking until her voice cracked. Please. Ethan, we have to talk, I said through the door. We don't. She let out an angry sob. So that's it? You're just shutting me out. You shut me out long before this. Her hand slapped the door. Don't do this. You can't do this to me. I almost laughed. Funny, didn't care when you were doing it to me. There was a moment of silence. Then she switched tactics. Ethan, she whispered. I'm sorry. Her voice trembled in a way I hadn't heard in years. I messed up, but we can fix it. I'll change. I'll do anything. Just open the door. Guilt twisted in my chest, pulling tight. But I didn't open it. Madison, I said softly, you had months to see what you were doing, and every time I tried to talk, you pushed me further away. You don't understand, she yelled. Brittany said. I don't care what Brittany said. She said I shouldn't be weak. She told you treating your husband with basic affection is weakness. I snapped. Madison didn't answer. Jet new friends, I said. She went silent for 3 seconds. Then the screaming started. So that's it. You're choosing to destroy everything because I needed boundary respect. You didn't want respect, I said. You wanted control. Whoa, she screamed, voice sharp enough to cut through the hallway. And you're terrified accountability. I heard her breath hitch. She wasn't expecting that. But then, another voice, of course. Brittany. She stepped into view, arms folded like a smug gargoyle. Ethan, she sneered. You're abusing her emotionally by ignoring her. I almost choked. Ignoring her. That's rich coming from the woman who coached her into pushing me away. I guided her to value herself. Brittany fired back. No, I said. Encouraged her to disrespect her marriage. She scoffed. If you were a better husband. Stop talking? I snapped. Her jaw dropped, clearly not used to men telling her no. Madison turned on me again. You won't even try to work things out. I did try, I said. You just didn't notice. I heard movement summoning up the stairs, the building's security guard. Everything okay here? He asked. No, Brittany said dramatically. He's creating a hostile environment. I cut her off. Actually, she's just passing, and I've already asked her to leave. Madison's eyes widened. You called security on your own wife. You're not my wife, I said quietly. Not anymore. That broke her. She slid down against my door, knees pulled to her chest, sobbing into her hands. Her whole body shook with the force of it. For the first time in months, I felt something real, not pity, not anger, grief. The grief of watching the person you love drown in consequences they did. Ethan, she cried. I don't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose you either, I said. But you left long before I did. Security stepped closer. Mime to leave the property. I'm now the EVNG. She screamed, thrashing. She can tea. Madison home. She froze. That phrase go home hit her harder than everything else. Please, she whispered, voice cracking. Please don't do this. I'll fire Brittany. I'll block her. I'll do. And fix everything. Just don't file for divorce. A part of me wanted to believe her. Wanted to open the door. Wanted to pretend things could go back to the way they were. But I remembered her face the night she said, "Don't touch me." I have sulked. Her disgust, her arrogance, her complete lack of love. And the answer became easy. You're too late, I said. She let out a sound, half scream, half sob, and suddenly slapped O with both hands. While Rajiakas, she shrieked. Iuotiu estran agan midi iloka evr tigi efraum u. That's enough, the guard said, pulling her back. She fought him, screaming, crying, reaching toward the door like I was no way instead of her. Etan, don tdotis. PSE, POSE. But her voice was fading. Her footsteps echoed down the hall. Her sobs softened. Then silence. I slid down on the inside of the door as she disappeared around the corner. Not because I doubted myself, but because endings, even necessary ones, hurt like hell. There was no going back now. She had finally felt the distance she had created. And I had finally felt something I hadn't known for months: peace. The morning after the hallway meltdown, I woke up to a silence that felt different from the silence Madison used to create. This one wasn't heavy. It wasn't sharp. It didn't feel like punishing. Breathing. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for a door to slam. I wasn't bracing for a confrontation. I wasn't apologizing for something I didn't do. I made coffee. Sat on my balcony. Watched the city move without me. And I realized peace feels shockingly loud when you're used to chaos. By noon, I had done something I should have done much earlier. I went to my attorney's office and signed the final divorce paperwork. No hesitation, no shaking hands, no second guessing. Just a clean signature and an even cleaner sense of finality. When we filed the papers officially, Madison didn't show up. She sent her lawyer instead, and even through the legal jargon, the message was obvious. She thought she could still control the narrative. She asked for half of everything. Spousal support, my retirement, my savings, even the apartment she'd screamed outside of. Her lawyer made demands with the confidence of someone used to bullying their way through negotiations. My lawyer, thank God, didn't play that game. She can have exactly what the law entitles her to, she said calmly. No more, no less. And absolutely no spousal support. By the end of the process, Madison was fair, nothing extra, nothing undeserved. When the judge finalized the divorce, the last line hit me harder than expected. Marriage dissolved due to read-syllable disrespect. Disrespect, not conflict, not incompatibility, not growing apart. Disrespect. She gave it. I finally refused to accept it. A week later, Madison texted me one final time. I hope you're happy. I looked at the message for a long minute before replying. I hope you learn what real self-respect means. I hit send. Blocked her. Moved on. These days my life is quiet. I go to work, come home, cook dinner, play poker with friends on the weekends. Nobody yells at me. Nobody demands more than I can give. Nobody treats my love like a currency to be spent or withheld. Sometimes grief sneaks in, not for her, but for the version of us that could have existed if she hadn't turned our marriage into a battleground. But grief is clean. Abuse is not. When people ask why I walked away, I tell them the truth. Self-respect didn't in my marriage. Her lack of respect for my self-respect did. And honestly, choosing myself was the first real act of love I'd given myself in years.